Hey girls, this is Katie. I'm going to be doing a series of videos called The Good Life on a Budget that will help you live well, be healthy, and save money. My husband and I sort of pride ourselves on being resourceful. We met during an AmeriCorps program where we lived on $13 a day, mostly in California where things were really expensive, and we did fine. We also lived in San Francisco and then in Alaska, which both have really, really high cost of living, and we had a great quality of life, just being resourceful, finding different ways of getting the things we needed. So I'm going to share with you today why you should love your crock pot, because I love mine. I use it all the time, and let me tell you about it. So, crock pot, slow cooker, same thing. I think it's just a brand issue. So I have a really basic one. This is it. It's pretty small. I think it's 4 quarts. It's just the heating part that plugs in, the crock that comes out, and this is made of stoneware, and then there's a lid. You can get really fancy with it. Mine, a basic model like that costs like $15–20 bucks. There are really big ones that fit whole chickens. There are programmable ones with all kinds of different settings, and there are also ones where they have insulator carriers and stuff for travel. So you can go all out if you want to. Maybe you already have one, it's just sitting around and you're never using it. But I use mine, like I said, probably once a week, and the 2 main things I use it for are making vegetable stock for soups and other stuff, and for cooking dried beans. Both of those because I hate buying canned products. They taste fine, that's not really, well, I guess I don't really like canned vegetables, but canned beans are okay. I just hate carrying them home from the grocery store. They're really heavy, they create a lot of garbage. I happen to live somewhere where they do recycle, steel cans, but I've lived other places where they didn't, and so I was really motivated to phase them out of my consumption. Also, as you'll see, they're way more expensive than making your own from scratch. So to start with, veggie stock. I don't eat much meat. I used to be vegetarian. I'm sort of phasing seafood and chicken back into my diet. My husband eats everything, but I make vegetable stock a lot just as a base for soups because it is so easy. Basically what you do is just save all of your vegetable scraps that you acquire making other things. And what I do is save them in a Tupperware like this in the freezer. So anytime I'm making a salad, anything where I'm using vegetables, any of the parts I don't use, after they're washed, I will just stick in the Tupperware and stick right back in the freezer. When this container gets full, I know that I have enough stuff to make a batch of stock. Good things to use are peels. You can use peels from onions, carrots, anything that you would use a vegetable peeler to remove the skin. A lot of times the skin has most of the vitamins anyway and flavor, so go ahead and save those. The end of broccoli that you don't normally eat, that big stalk, you can cut it up in pieces, again, after it's cleaned. If there's any parts that are rotten, really dirty, just gross, cut them off and throw them away, compost them, whatever. But all the parts that you're not going to use in the dish that you're making, but are still pretty much okay. You can still extract the nutrition and flavor from them, put them in your Tupperware in the freezer. Herbs are another really great thing. If you use parsley, you generally use the leaves. You put the stems in the Tupperware. So when this is full, it basically fills my crock pot halfway. So I'll take all the frozen veggies out of there, stick them in my crock pot, and then I'll fill it the rest of the way up with water. Cold water, hot water, doesn't matter. I just use tap water. I also toss in some things to help with flavor. So I usually put a couple garlic cloves, just whole, peppercorns whole. You can use ground pepper if you want. Bay leaf is really good if you just have a bay leaf to toss in. So that you turn on low and it just simmers for hours and hours and hours, 6 to 8 hours. You can either do it overnight. I would just turn it on right before I go to bed, and in the morning shut it off. Or you can do it while you're at work. So same thing, turn it on low right before you leave, and when you get home, it should be good. How to know if it's done? Are your vegetables cooked? You know, are they like soft? Are they pretty much raw still? Because if they're raw, they probably haven't flavored your water at all to make stock. You can dip a sort of a spoon or a cup in and just check the color. As the stock develops, it'll get kind of golden color, depending on what vegetables you have in there. I should have said this before. Figure out if I can edit. So, good vegetables to use, I always start with onion, celery, and carrot, and parsley. Parsley is kind of a must-have for me for this too. You can stick in anything else you want. Mushrooms I think are really good. They really improve the color. Sweet potatoes, broccoli, like we said. You can use asparagus, but I wouldn't use too much of it because it has a really distinct flavor. You can use tomatoes, but again, if you use a lot of tomatoes, you're going to have tomato stock, which is fine if you want a soup that has a tomato base. If not, I would just use a few tomatoes. Pretty much any vegetable you want. I'm trying to think of green beans would be good. Spinach I've used. Things to sort of minimize would be anything in the cabbage family, which does include broccoli. It would also be cauliflower or cabbage. They're just, well, vegetables in that family tend to make you have gas and can be like a little bit allergenic for people. So also like cabbage can totally dominate the flavor of the stock. So I would limit it on those. Anyway, so when your stock has simmered all day long in your crock pot or all night, go ahead and shut it off. I would give it a few minutes. The crock itself is going to be hot, so you want to wear mitts to remove it from the whole unit. You're going to strain out the vegetables. So you can do this really fast just using a big colander. Just dump the whole thing into the colander. All the vegetables will be in there, and they're pretty much done. You know, you can throw them out. If you still feel like you can extract more flavor from them, go ahead and reuse them. Put it back in the crock pot when you're done, put in more water, and see if, you know, what else you can get out of it. I also have a small strainer like this that I actually prefer to use because it strains out, you know, like all the little particles of pepper and smaller parts. So then it makes a really clear stock. Excuse me. Don't put any salt in until you're ready to use it. So at this point, everything is just totally unsalted. Then what I do is divide it into small portions and usually freeze it. If I need it that night for a soup or something, fine, go ahead and use it fresh, that's great. You can store it in your refrigerator or your freezer, but I usually just reuse small Tupperwares like this from other things. This actually does have stock in it right now. Usually I freeze them. You can go ahead and measure them out into cups. So you know your container, you can label this. This container has 3 cups in it. And then when your recipe calls for a certain amount, you've got it set. You can also put it in ice cube trays for smaller amounts. Okay, be right back with the rest.